All right, this is IntelliQvic training, DXF import, class model, Class-DXF file B. So we're going to import the DXF file. So we hit model, 2D file insert, folder icon, and grab class B. 00 is in the bottom left of the block. Being that we don't actually have this block, I'm going to just call the center of the circle my 00 position. So we go to place model, model reference point, hit the arrow, and grab the hover on the circle and it'll grab the center of the circle. Its coordinates fill in here, and there's it's at some awkward position, as we can see the awkward numbers. So that's why I liked, in this case, we don't want to have to type in these positions. Hit the define button. Now make sure this is on move, and hit the little icon here to move it to the model reference and hit define again. Top view. So the circle is at 00. We can check that. Measurement, attribute. Click on the circle. It's at 00. And then let's also confirm the size of a few things just to make sure we have the right, make sure we understand the size of the piece. So we're going to measure from this element to this other element on the right. Hit the measure button. And it's 350 thousandths wide. Okay, so have our geometry on the screen, and I'm going to program this as a die shape. So next step is feature recognition, contour extraction. We'll put our workpiece thickness in here, 875. We'll say die. We'll say start element. We're going to not use on all. We're going to set it on die, and we're going to click on the one we want to cut, which is this one, and hit extract. So it makes it 3D simulation there. Top view. Now we need a wire start hole. So go to 2D drawing, starting hole. It's at 00, we know that, so I don't have to pick the geometry. I could pick the geometry with this icon. And I'll just leave it at 00 and we'll hit new. So now one thing I want to show you before we move on is if you have a starting hole, and let's say we put one out here off in space, say, oh, we got one out here. It's okay to have it there. If we have two of them now. But if you wanted to get rid of it, it has that capability. So you go into starting hole or in that same menu where we were, and now you would use this arrow button. So that's this arrow button is to select an existing one. Maybe you want to move it, maybe you want to get rid of it. But if I click on it, it says start hole 1541. That was the X and Y coordinates of it. So I could type in new coordinates and have it shift over, or I can just hit delete button here. So you can hit edit, and you can delete it. So let's click it again, start all and delete. So I got rid of it. Okay. So next step, machining path, path generation. I'm not going to use automatic because I want to pick which face I want to approach onto. If you pick automatic, it's going to, I don't know if it picked a 6 o'clock position or over here on the left side, the 9 o'clock position. Those are the two closest walls. I'm not sure which one of the two it would pick, but let's go generate path. We would set our power settings, so it's 800 thousandths thick. Maybe we're going to have our flush nozzle distanced. And maybe I want 3 passes, so I'll pick 3 or up. Set my corner controls so they say output. Find. Pick this rougher finish, and it'll be a 3-pass technology, 3 times. My glue tab was set before, 50 thousandths. The avoidance, that's the little retract move. Let's just set that down to 15 thousandths. And let's take a look at the directions. So we have it set to go to clockwise. So we have to remember, if we go clockwise, this little glue tab is going to be at the end of the clockwise motion. So I think I really want to go, like say, go down at 6 o'clock and go counter, or I'm sorry, we want to pick 6 o'clock position, so it goes clockwise and leaves that little tab here on this flat. So we're going to leave that at clockwise. Specify starting hole. Specify entry element, which is bottom. And it's completed. So there's my clockwise toolpath. Next step is NC conversion. Convert to NC. Class-b. Convert parameters we set before. They will stay. Actually, I want to be C0 T84. I don't know how that got switched back, but anyway. And then convert. So that made our toolpath program for us. It'll be sitting in the memory of the machine. And then you would go to edit page on the machine and hit graphic draw to do a simulation. When it posts out the program, it puts it in memory, and it'll also be in the hard drive of the machine. So next step for you to do is just graphic draw, and then you can set the machine's position and cut it. Okay, so now we're Class B again, and I need to make a punch program for the one we just made the die for. So what I'm going to do is go to Machining Path and delete the die program. So we removed what we had before, and now I need a starting hole down, you know, on one of these two face. You can either pick this left face and have your lead in line on this face or this bottom face, one of these two faces. I'm going to put a start hole. I'm going to say this bottom face will be where my lead on edge will be. So this bottom edge of the geometry we can see down in the bottom right here, down in this area, we can see where our coordinates are. It's minus 100 thousandths. So if I put my start hole at minus, let's say minus 300 thousandths, so I need a start hole. First thing is, you can do the feature recognition first if you want, or the start hole. So I'm just going to do the start hole this time. Put it at minus 0.3, let's say. New, close. So there's my start hole. If I want to get rid of that start hole, I can, but I don't really need to. Feature recognition, contour extraction. This time we're going to click on, we're going to put in our thickness. We're going to click on punch. The start element is just anywhere. It's not really the start element. It's just an element on the punch that you, in case you have more than one piece of geometry on the screen, it wants to know which closed shape you're cutting. Hit extract. So, looks like I have my contour. I got a die contour. Let me just delete that one here. I got a die contour. Did that do that automatically? Let me just get rid of it and do this step again. It seems kind of strange why I got to. Maybe I didn't delete it from before. That's what the problem was. I only deleted the machining path. And I had a feature. I should have deleted it too. So anyway, contour extraction, punch, click somewhere on the punch, extract. Oops. Forgot to put a thickness in. That's my mistake. 0.875. Punch, extract. There's our punch. Okay. Machining path, step 2. We have our start hole, so I just need machining path. Path generation. This will say punch. It's important to have correct for punch or die because that's going to be the tab cutoff is different. This is the first time we're making a punch now. So before we made die shapes. So what happens on a die shape is you rough up to the tab, you chop off the tab, and then you skim it with the slug out of there. Where a punch, we have to leave it attached to skim the punch. Right? So if you skim it, then and you may need a little bit bigger tab than you would for a die. So we're going to do that too. So we're going to pick our punch, make sure this says punch, hit generate path. Pick our power settings, which let's say they're the same as before. Corner control, AIC, and SFCC. Output, that's correct. Find. Let's say a 3-pass technology. Pick this rougher finish, be 3-pass. Now, let's take a look at this. Put this in a top view. Oh, can't get there from here. So anyway, we're going to look at our direction. We're going clockwise. My start hole's here. If I go clockwise, that's the way I want, because I want the tab on the right side of X0. So that's the correct direction. The tab size, residual stock here, let's put that in 100 thousandths. And because it's the first time I'm entering values in here, they're kind of some goofy numbers. The avoidance is the little retract move off of the face of the part. I'll show you where that shows up. So we need to just use a small number here, bigger than the offset that you're running with 10 wire. You're usually never running an offset bigger than 10 thousandths. It's always around 8 for your first pass. So if we put 15 thousandths, that'll be fine. We don't want to make sure we don't back up too far. If you put too big a number here, she's going to back up on the rough cut too far and probably hit your wire start hole possibly, depending on how big you make that tab. So we want to be careful of that. So we hit OK. The question at the bottom is starting hole. Pick that starting hole, specify the entry element, which is that face down there. And there's our tool path, top view. There's our lead-in line. It's going to come to the yellow and go around clockwise. It's going to stop short. There's our 100 thousandths, the light blue. And then it's going to do the skims, leaving this tab area right here, holding the punch in place to do the skims. This is the little avoidance move that we talked about, 15 thousandths avoidance move. So we want to make sure we set those properly. So next step is NC conversion. Convert to NC, and we'll go Class B punch. Convert parameters. Everything's the way I want, and convert. So if you could make when you're making a punch, what sometimes happens in class, let me just go back in the machining path, and I'm going to path correction on this one. I'm going to make a change. So like I was mentioning, so if you have a small number here from the die, let's say you had it set for 20 thousandths when you make a die, and we had this unusually large distance here for our avoidance. Let's see what happens. See? So it came in the lead-in line, goes around, and this avoidance backs all the way up into the wire start hole. Now this is smaller than the actual wire. The wire start hole is probably going to be about 100 thousandths. It's going to be a circle a lot bigger. So what happens if you back all the way up into the start hole, what happens? The punch falls out on the rough cut. And then the machine is shorted out because the punch is loose. Can't do the skims. So that's what we want to watch for. We don't set those improperly. So that's the punch example.